Hello YouTube world, this is Mac Daddy 1911A1 with the Shade Tree Survivalist. Stuck out on the road still, and yesterday I was working in the truck, cleaning up a little bit, organizing a little bit. Been on the road for a week now and out here over the weekend, and I found my book, one of my books I read here in the last little bit. I hope the camera can see this all the way. It is called 1 Second After by William R. Forstchen. I hope I pronounce his name correctly. It's about what would happen in this world, in the United States of America, if an E.M.P, an electromagnetic pulse weapon, were exploded over the United States. Now, if you don't know anything about E.M.P or what it can do, an E.M.P can be caused by a nuclear weapon above 25 miles in altitude above the Earth's surface. Okay, and it's a very powerful weapon. Okay, it'll create an electrical surge that'll wipe out any electrical device that is not hardened against it. Now, in the olden days, back in the Cold War, the U.S. military and most militaries hardened all their military equipment, their aircraft, tanks, computers, and everything else against an electromagnetic pulse in case of a nuclear war. Okay, and so that it wouldn't be harmed by the E.M.Ps that would be set off to try to knock out our infrastructure. However, the civilian world, I don't think it's ever been hardened against it. Okay, your car, your appliances, your lights, your cell phones, your telephones, power lines, everything would be knocked out, and it would be no visible damage. That's the bitch. That's the thing that is, you know, everything looks normal. It doesn't look like there's any damage at all, but it'll be wiped out. Okay. In the first 15 or 20 minutes of the Tom Cruise movie War of the Worlds, the aliens used an E.M.P weapon. And remember, his old Mustang did not have an electronic ignition, and the only thing supposedly that was damaged was the alternator. In reality, that would be about the basis of it for anything that's not solid state circuitry or digital circuitry. For instance, the camera I'm using here is a brand new RCA Small Wonder camera. It would be fried. The computer in this truck that operates the engine and all the electronics, it would be fried. You set my cell phone, okay, I've got the Samsung Rugby, it would be fried. My CB radio, it's even my new CB radio, it's got digital circuitry, it would be fried. Okay, your refrigerator, your stove, if you had power, would be fried. Your brand spanking new generator that you've got for survival situations, it'd be fried. The circuitry in it would be screwed, it would be fried, it would not run, period. Probably the generator itself would be fried. And you would not be able to find the cause because it would be an E.M.P. So if one day while you're driving along, all the cars around you on the interstate or on the highway just stop, your car quits. I mean, there's no reason for it. You hit the key, nothing cranks. I mean, it doesn't do anything. It's dead. It's probably an E.M.P. I would highly recommend you read this book. Okay, I would highly recommend it. It's a hard read. The main character has a daughter who has early onset childhood diabetes. She's 12 years old in the book, and without electricity, there's no, I mean, without any type of transportation, any electricity, there's no way to make the drugs we need to sustain life, okay, for folks who have diabetes. My God, I can't even think of it. My dad was a diabetic. The insulin, okay? If you can't refrigerate insulin, it goes bad. It's no good. Won't work. So it has to be refrigerated until you get it into your body, and then it does its job, of course. But heart medications, pain medications, all this kind of stuff, it takes electricity, the machinery to make it, to manufacture it. It takes trucks like mine to transport it from point A to point B to your local pharmacy. All right, and then of course you've got to have a ride from wherever you live to the pharmacy to pick it up. But if there's no electricity, there's no transportation network, there's nothing. I mean, it's like going from the 21st century back to the early 1800s, before the electric light bulb was invented, before the electric generators were invented, you know, power stations and all this type of stuff. It might as well just be the 1800s. Okay, no refrigeration. Your stove that uses electricity would be useless if that's what you're using, and you'd be back down to the 1800s. So this is probably the absolute worst case scenario of man-made disasters. Okay, we all have heard the stories that we can have problems with our computers and our cell phones and satellites and stuff of that nature here in the last little bit, from electromagnetic pulses from the sun, from the solar flares. Okay, you've probably heard of that on the radio and the TV in the last couple of years, because it seems like they're happening more frequently. And they can cause problems, but they're not going to cause a massive scale of problems that a nuclear weapon exploded in the upper atmosphere can cause. Just a word to the wise, do some research on it. Do not depend on electronics. Okay, I'm not saying don't have them. I'm saying that you should try to find military grade generators, if that's what you you know, if you need generators, military type vehicles that are hardened against it. But you have to remember, you put any parts on it that are civilian manufactured, they're not going to be to the same specification. Okay, so if you're going to do it, get an old style diesel engine that does not have electronic capabilities. I mean, electronic computers that control the injectors and all that. Get an old style one without any of that. You don't have to have electricity if your starter is fried. So what? Park that sucker on a hill, release the clutch with it in gear, let it get rolling good, dump the clutch, it'll fire the engine up. Okay? Or do one better, get an air starter and have an air tank reservoir, and you don't even need electricity, period, because the E.M.P will wipe it out if it's not hardened against it. Read this book, get some good ideas on it. The man that wrote this book, he really thought about it long and hard when he decided to write it, and what would happen, and how people would deal with it, and how some would try to take advantage of it and take from others because they were not prepared. I mean, the gangs in the cities just took over and killed and murdered and took, and once they had done in the populations of the population centers, the big cities, they moved out into the county and across country and killing and murdering in their path. There's my phone. This is Mac Daddy 1911A1 with the Shade Tree Survivalists, signing off.